Every year, Google does something quietly interesting. While other manufacturers are stacking features onto $1,200 flagships to justify their prices, Google releases a phone aimed at people who just want something that works well, without the financial stress. That phone, for 2026, is the Google Pixel 10a, announced February 18th, priced at $499 for the 128GB model and $599 for 256GB, with an official release date of March 5th. The price is identical to last year's Pixel 9a, and that actually tells you a lot about what this phone is. Today, we're going to answer the only question that matters. Is this a meaningful upgrade, or just a new name on an old device? The honest answer is somewhere in the middle, and we're going to walk through every part of it. Let's start with the display, because it's genuinely impressive for this price. The Pixel 10a has a 6.3-inch P-OLED screen with a 120Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 3000 nits. P-OLED means the base layer is plastic rather than glass, which allows for a slimmer, lighter build than traditional OLED panels. The 120Hz refresh rate is what makes scrolling feel fluid and responsive. You notice it most when swiping through a long web page or a social media feed. And at 3000 nits peak brightness, the screen stays readable even in harsh direct sunlight, which is something a lot of phones in this price range still struggle with. Protecting the screen is Gorilla Glass 7i, a notable step up from the Gorilla Glass 3 found on older A-series models. 9to5 Google's hands-on noted this durability improvement as potentially the most meaningful physical upgrade of this generation. Under the hood, the Pixel 10a runs on Google's Tensor G4 chip with 8GB of RAM. And it's worth being upfront about this. This is the same processor used in the Pixel 9a. The flagship Pixel 10 uses the newer Tensor G5, but Google kept the G4 here to hold down costs. For everyday use, streaming, browsing, social media, photography, you won't feel any limitation. The G4 is a solid chip. Where it matters is AI. Some of the more advanced AI features on the Pixel 10, like Magic Q and Pixel Screenshots, require the G5's neural processing capabilities and simply don't run on the 10a. That's a real gap. Mezha's review flagged it as something buyers should understand before deciding. The battery is a 5100 mAh cell, large for a phone this size. Google claims over 30 hours of use in standard conditions and up to 120 hours with extreme battery saver enabled. Wired charging comes in at 30 watts, up slightly from 27 watts on the 9a, and wireless charging is now 10 watts, up from 7.5 watts. These are modest improvements rather than leaps, and it's worth noting that some Android competitors at this price point offer 65-watt wired charging. What's missing entirely is Qi 2 magnetic charging. Google's Pixel Snap ecosystem isn't supported here, and 9to5 Google called that their biggest disappointment with the device. On cameras, the Pixel 10a carries a 48-megapixel main sensor at f1.7 with optical image stabilization, and a 13-megapixel ultrawide on both the front and rear. The hardware is carried over from the 9a, but Google has added new software features. Auto Best Take helps you pick the sharpest, best expression photo from a burst, and Camera Coach, now powered by Gemini, gives you real-time suggestions to improve your framing. Google's computational photography remains the strongest argument for buying a Pixel over other phones in this range.
Phone Arena's camera benchmarks showed the Pixel 9a, which uses the same camera system, scoring 134 points against just 118 for the iPhone 16e. That lead is meaningful. In low light specifically, the Pixel 10a performs well above what its price suggests, though the flagship Pixel 10 Pro still has a clear edge for those willing to pay more. The build quality is clean and purposeful. According to CNN_'s hands-on, the phone looks nearly identical to the 9a at first glance, but there are refinements. The camera bar, the horizontal strip on the back, is now completely flush with the chassis. The phone lays perfectly flat, with no wobble. The bezels are 10% thinner, the frame is aluminum, the back is matte plastic, and the phone carries IP68 water resistance, meaning it can handle submersion up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. It weighs 183 grams and is 9 millimeters thick. It comes in 4 colors: Obsidian, Fog, Berry, and Lavender. Google calls it the most durable A-series phone they've made, and the Gorilla Glass 7i front supports that claim. The phone launches with Android 16 out of the box, the latest version, and comes with Google's guarantee of 7 years of OS and security updates. That commitment runs through roughly 2033, and no Android competitor at this price point comes close to matching it.
Comparing it to the competition, the iPhone 16e sits at $599, $100 more, and runs Apple's A18 chip, which is faster in benchmarks. But it has a smaller 6.1-inch display, a 4,005 mAh battery, and only one rear camera. The Pixel 10a wins on screen size, battery life, and camera versatility. Tom's guide noted the iPhone 16e makes sense primarily if you're already embedded in Apple's ecosystem. For everyone else, the Pixel 10a offers more for less. Against the Samsung Galaxy A55 5G, which retails around $449, the Pixel 10a is slightly more expensive, but delivers superior camera processing and, critically, nearly double the software support lifetime. Samsung offers 4 years of updates, Google offers 7. That's a big difference. The A55 does include a microSD slot for expandable storage, which the Pixel 10a lacks, so heavy media users might factor that in. So who should actually buy this phone? If you're coming from a device that's 2 or 3 years old, want a clean Android experience free of bloatware, care about camera quality, and want to know your phone will stay supported for years, the Pixel 10a at $499 is a strong, sensible choice. If you already have a Pixel 9a, there's no practical reason to upgrade. The processor is the same, the camera hardware is the same, and the incremental improvements don't justify the cost. If the newest AI features or magnetic charging matter to you, you'll need to move up to the Pixel 10 at $799 or higher. The Pixel 10a isn't trying to be the best phone ever made. It's trying to be the right phone for most people, and by that measure, it largely succeeds.